Hi everyone, happy Saturday. It's Denise from Dobby Books. So today I went to my library sale and I decided, after perusing around and not really finding anything in classics that I was looking for or anything in the history section that really caught my eye, I decided to just focus on my Newbery Medal, Newbery Honor Winner books, and I found a nice little stack. Before I go through that, let me tell you really quick what I'm reading right now. So the first one I'm reading, and this is a semester read, but it's really cool. And this is for my YA class, and it is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Ms. Acevedo. She is an Afro-Latina American poet and author who was named by the Poetry Foundation in 2022 as the Young People's Poet Laureate. She grew up in New York City and Harlem, and she currently lives in Washington, D.C. with her husband. And The Poet X is a New York Times bestseller. The book highlights the struggles of growing up as a Latina girl, dealing with her sexuality and religion, and finding her own voice. There's another point I wanted to make here. I hope I find it. Okay, these are the medals that she's won. She's a New York Times bestseller. She's received the National Book Award. She's a Carnegie Medal winner. She's also the winner of the 2019 Michael L. Prince Award and the 2018 Pura Belpré Award. And she also, let me see, the Boston Globe Hornbook Award Prize for the Best Children's Fiction of 2018. I don't know which book that was, but those are her accolades. And let me see, notable awards, spouse, alma mater, George Washington University and the University of Maryland. Good for her. So, Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. It's written in verse, and it's a story, but it's written in verse, which I think is very unique. She'll even have dialogue sometimes on one side and then, regular verse on the other. Am I right? Verse, prose, yeah. So it's all in verse. How unique. And I'm enjoying it. It really is neat. Okay, the next one that I'm reading, I'm still reading this book for Black History Month, The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. I am currently on page 134. I wonder where it ends, because this is a Norton critical edition, and you know how they have the critiques. I don't know if it's in the front or the back, so let me find out. Yeah, so the critiques are in the front. So of his writing, I don't even know if I'm halfway through. Let's see. Who knows? All right, so there's total number of pages in here, not counting the index and the chronology. There's 364, and I'm on page 134. So a couple hundred more to go. I had started this last year on Black History Month, would read one of the essays or articles that he wrote. I'd read one a day and just kept at it for the month. That's why I'm starting where I'm starting this year. I started a few articles back. So I know I'm not going to finish it this year, and I'll be picking up where I left off next year. Okay. And the next one, if you guys saw my quick video on how to prep a book, I got my book Tiberius. This arrived. This one is authored by Robin Sager, and I'm reading this book because I'm participating in Robert G., Reader of Books, reading through the Roman emperors, and Tiberius is the second one. And right now, I've just begun. I'm only on chapter 2. So far, so good. Obviously different than the author of Augustus. And the only thing about this book that kind of got me at first was the author tends to put just a first initial for the first part of a Roman name, and then he'll put the last name or something like that. So at first I was trying to guess, what is it? And I was looking it up in the book. I thought maybe it would explain some abbreviations. It didn't explain those. So in the end, if it says P, Brutus, I just read P. Brutus rather than trying to figure out what the P stands for. So that's what I'm reading there. And I still have these on the back burner. I haven't put them away just yet. The second book in the Redwall series, Mossflower, the one by Brian Jacques. So I'll be starting this eventually. And the next one that I'll be starting eventually is the second book in his Dark Materials trilogy, The Subtle Knife. So that's coming soon as well. Although I did receive 2 other books that are literary critiques on Philip Pullman himself. They're fascinating. Okay, that's what I'm reading. So now let's go through the books that I got. And there's 2 that I picked up at Barnes & Noble, little ones, and then there's something that I have for Richard at History Lit to show him. Here we go. Because I mentioned that I want to learn French, because I've already learned some Italian, I have learned Latin, and I speak Spanish. French is my next adventure. So when I was at Barnes & Noble, and by the way, I was looking for 2 completely different books. They didn't have either one. So that's why I ended up bumping into these and thinking, ooh, okay. So the first one is Short Stories in French for Beginners. And the author is Ollie Richards. Now, I don't know if you've seen his Facebook, not his Facebook page, his YouTube page. He teaches foreign language via stories. And I didn't realize this was his until I looked up there and I saw Ollie and I go, ooh, that sounds familiar. And then I put it together. And I thought, okay, well, if these are beginner stories and I'm already doing my Pimsleur French level 1, unit 1, and I think by the next lesson, we're going to be just starting to read some words in French. And I'll just go from there. And what's really neat about this is, I'm going to see if I can show you an example. In the first story, is it here? Well, here's the first story. So this is, but you have it in French. And then I believe, and then you'll see the words in bold. And I believe those are the words that are defined at the end of the story. So let's take a look. Valise, I know means suitcase. And there we go. Now at the end of the story, you have the words in bold and their definitions. And what I really like about this story, if you look at the spacing between the sentences, I see that and I think, ooh, I could write the words in English right above them. It's pencil, which is what I did when I was first, whenever I'm reading anything in Spanish, which I'm fluent in, sometimes I will need to write some words above the word in Spanish, the English equivalent to that. It just kind of helps me remember. And the second one I got is by the same author, Ollie Richards, but this is short stories in Italian for beginners, because this is going to keep me, what's the word? Keep me in practice. And they're the same stories. They're the same stories. So you have them in bold type, and then you have all the definitions, and then it has some questions to ask you at the end. So this will always be great. And these 2, I think, together were $20 roughly, with my discount and everything. So that worked out well. Now, for Richard from History Lit, I took your advice. I went to my library and I requested a hold, and I picked it up today. I got Mary Beard's Confronting the Classics. So I'm going to have a nice perusal through this. I have 2 weeks, I believe. Let's see, what's the due date? March 15th. Around 2 weeks. Today is the 22nd. Yeah. So I've got a couple of weeks to work my way through this as best I can. And the good thing about it is, if I really find that I like it, I'll just buy it, But thanks, Richard, for the suggestion. So there we go. These are not in any order. They're just, I'm grabbing them as I go. Now, this first book is not a Newberry Medal winner. I think the first few are not. They're just books that I'm familiar with. And this one here by Roald Dahl, James and the Giant Peach. And I believe that the Roald Dahl books had recently been revised. So some terms that were considered, no longer, I guess, I don't know, politically correct or appropriate, were replaced with other words. And I didn't want that. I wanted the original one. So this is one of the older books and I got this one. And I also got the BFG by Roald Dahl. This is Ginger Pie by Eleanor Estes. This is a Newbery Medal winner. Ginger Pie. Meet the marvelous pies. There is Mrs. Pie, the youngest mother in town, Mr. Pie, a famous bird man who handles all the nation's important bird problems, and Rachel Pie, who is so reasonable she can make unreasonable ideas sound like good ones, Jerry Pie, who knows about rocks of all sorts and plans to grow up to be a rock man, Uncle Benny, who is Jerry and Rachel's uncle, even though he's only 3 years old. And lastly is Ginger Pie, the intellectual dog who Jerry bought for a hard-earned $1, the most famous pup in all of Cranberry. Ginger knows tons of tricks, is as loyal as he is smart, and steals the hearts of everyone he meets until someone steals him. Sounds like a good story. Next one, And Now Miguel. This one is a Newbery Medal winner. It's kind of hard to see it sometimes. This is by Joseph Crumgold. Let me give you a quick little summary of that. When you act like an adult but get treated like a child, what else can you do but keep your wishes secret and pray that they'll come true? This is the story of 12-year-old Miguel Chavez, who yearns in his heart to go with the men of his family on a long and hard sheep drive to the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, until his prayer is finally answered with a disturbing and dangerous exchange. That sounds exciting. Then we have The Fledgling by Jane Langton, and this is a Newbery honor book, and I have to take the sticker off. Boy, that just drives me nuts. And the story of this is, at last, I'm flying. It all started when Georgie discovered she could jump down 12 steps in 2 big graceful bounds. Next, to her great delight, she found that jumping from the porch and floating as high as the rooftop was possible too. So when the mysterious Canada Goose appeared at her window one night, it seemed only natural for Georgie to climb on his back and go off with him to learn to really fly. But no one wants Georgie flying. And one person, that horrible Ralph Preek, will stop at nothing to prevent Georgie's lovely goose prince from coming. Here's my E.L. Konigsberg, The View from Saturday. I have one of her books. View from Saturday. Meet the souls. Noah, who quite by accident was best man at the wedding of Ethan's grandmother and Nadia's grandfather. Nadia, a hybrid with a halo of red hair, a dog that's a genius and a fondness for baby turtles. Ethan, the silent second son of one of Epiphany's oldest families, who discovers he likes halos. Julian, the strangest person on the school bus, who starts everything by inviting the others to a tea party. How did Mrs. Alinsky, returning to teaching 10 years after being paralyzed in an automobile accident, choose these 4 to be her 6th grade academic bowl team? And how did this unlikely foursome become even unlikelier champions in far more than just the state middle school competition? The View from Saturday is a rich and rewarding journey that answers these questions and raises many more. Graven Images, 3 stories by Paul Fleshman. I know this last name. I believe this is a Newbery Medal winner, but if you see that medal, you can't really tell. I'm thinking it's a Newbery Medal winner. Newbery Honor Book, it says on the back. Graven images, wooden boys, weather vanes, and statues aren't alive. They can't speak or read minds, or can they? Only the wooden boy knows how the crew of the Orion died and who the murderer was. A broken weather vane leads Nicholas to his true love, with some funny misunderstandings along the way. The spirit of a dead man commissions the proud and arrogant stone carver Zorelli to sculpt him a statue, and shows Zorelli that even great men have feet of clay. 3 stories, from chilling to comic, show what happens when people put their faith in graven images. The Avion, my uncle, the Avion. I'm looking at this. It could be French or it could be Spanish. Avion. So let's say The Avion My Uncle Flew. And this is a Newbery Honor Medal. No, excuse me, a Newbery Honor book. And it says the adventure of a lifetime. Let's see if I can read this here. Johnny Littlehorn is on his way to France to live with his Uncle Paul. But what starts off as an exciting trip soon turns into a frightening adventure. A strange man trails Johnny throughout Paris and seems to follow him to his uncle's home in small Saint-Germain. And then, as Johnny explores the town with his new friends, he comes to realize something even worse. A Nazi spy is hiding in the mountains, hatching an evil plan. Could the two men be one and the same? And can Johnny foil the villainous plot? Ooh, adventure story. Sounds good. Next one. This is an interesting title. Onion John. I forgot to tell you who wrote The Avion My Uncle Flew. Cyrus Fisher. Okay. Back to Onion John. Onion John is written by Joseph Krumgold, a Newberry Medal winner. And it says, see if I can hold these and read them so it's just better for you. It's one thing to have a father who wants to decide your future. It's quite another when he steals your best friend and tries to change your friend's life too. Even though his father has big dreams for him to become an engineer, Andy Rush is perfectly happy working summers in the family hardware store, playing on the Serenity baseball team, and being best friends with Onion John, the last person on earth Andrew Rush Sr. wants to see influencing his son. I wonder what the story is on that one. This one, this is obviously an older Newberry Medal. It's by Lloyd Alexander, The High King. I wonder if any of you might have read this or familiar with it. The sword of Dernwyn, the most powerful weapon in the kingdom of Prydain, has fallen into the hands of Arwan Deathlord. Aron, A-R-A-W-N, Aron, Deathlord. Now Terran, assistant pigkeeper, and Prince Gwydion lead an army against the powerful lord. After a winter expedition filled with danger, Terran's forces arrive at Mount Dragon. Evil's stronghold. Oh, sorry about that. There, Terran is forced to make the most crucial decision of his life as he confronts the evil enchantress Akron and the diabolical Aron. Definitely a boy's adventure tale. Let's see how long it takes me to read this. Catherine, called Bertie. She's not your average damsel in distress, and this is a Newbery Honor book. Cool cover. I like that. Something about that art I like. Reminds me of The Midwife's Apprentice, that cover. It's kind of a similar look to me. This is Corpus Bones. I utterly loathe my life. Catherine feels trapped. Her father is determined to marry her off to a rich man, any rich man, no matter how awful. Can a sharp-tongued, high-spirited, clever young maiden with a mind of her own actually lose the battle against an ill-mannered, pig-like lord and an unimaginative, greedy toad of a father? Deuce. Not if Catherine has anything to say about it. I'm going to like this one. And this is written by, Karen Cushman. Okay, so Karen Cushman also wrote The Midwife's Apprentice. Okay, that would explain it. Okay, Newbery Honor Medal. I keep saying medal, don't I? This is a Newbery Honor winner. The Witches of Worm. And this is written by Zilpha Keatley Snyder, 3-time Newbery Honor winner. I love the kitty cat. That moon, oh no, that's the medal. Silly. It says, cats. Jessica's never liked them, especially not a skinny, ugly kitten that looks like a worm. Worm. Jessica wishes she'd never brought Worm home with her because now he's making her do terrible things. She's sure she isn't imagining the evil voice coming from the cat, telling her to play mean tricks on people. But how can she explain what's happening? Witches. Jessica has read enough books to know that Worm must be a witch's cat. He's cast a spell on her, but whom can she turn to? After all, no one will believe that Worm has bewitched her, or worse. I also like this cover. By Cynthia Rylant, Missing May. Another Newbery Medal. There were like 3 or 4 books with this title, but this cover was the one I preferred. There was something about it. In another cover, there were 3 people sort of looking up at the sky, but this girl is up in a tree looking down. So it just, I just wondered more about it. I wanted this one. And it says, loving is believing. Ever since May, Summer's aunt and ever since May, Summer's aunt and good as a mother for the past 6 years died in the garden among her pole beans and carrots. Life for Summer and her uncle Ob has been as bleak as winter. Ob doesn't want to create his beautiful whirligigs anymore, and he and Summer have slipped into a sadness that they can't shake off. They need May in whatever form they can have her, a message, a whisper, a sign that will tell them what to do next. When that sign comes, Summer will discover that she and Ob can keep missing May, but still go on with their lives. Oh, what a beautiful story. I didn't even look to see what it was about because I saw, ooh, metal. Grabbed it. I'm glad I got this book. By Patricia Riley Giff. Lily's Crossing. Newberry Honor Book. That's a pretty cover. Very nostalgic. It says, as in past years, Lily will spend the summer in Rockaway in her family's summer house by the Atlantic Ocean. But this summer of 1944, World War II has changed everyone's life. Lily's best friend, Margaret, has moved to a wartime factory town, and much worse, Lily's father is going overseas to the war. There's no one Lily's age in Rockaway until the arrival of Albert, a refugee from Hungary with a secret sewn into his coat. Albert has lost most of his family in the war. He's been through things Lily can't imagine. But soon they form a special friendship. Now Lily and Albert have secrets to share. They both have told lies, and Lily has told one that may cost Albert his life. That sounds like a great story. This one is written by Lois Lowry. Number the Stars, of course, a Newbery Medal winner. This one says, 10-year-old Anne-Marie Johansson and her best friend Ellen Rosen often think about life before the war. But it's now 1943, and their life in Copenhagen is filled with school, food shortages, and the Nazi soldiers marching in their town. The Nazis won't stop. The Jews of Denmark are being relocated, so Ellen moves in with the Johanssons and pretends to be part of the family. Then Anne-Marie is asked to go on a dangerous mission. Somehow she must find the strength and courage to save her best friend's life. There's no turning back now. Another exciting story. Oh, I'm going to love this a lot. Okay. The last one in this bag, The Cat Who Went to Heaven by Elizabeth Coatsworth, a Newbery Medal winner. And this one, as his master paints a masterpiece which has been commissioned by the village temple, a little cat watches. The artist draws a snail, a swan, a horse, all the animals who received the blessing of the Buddha. At last, moved by compassion, the artist takes up his brush and draws a cat, and is rewarded for his act of love by a special Buddhist miracle. This timeless fable of a cat who changes the life of a poor Japanese artist has become a classic since its first publication in 1930, before my dad was born. And this newly illustrated edition brings to life the magic and wonder of the Buddhist legends that the painter draws. Oh, what a beautiful story that's going to be. I'm going to love it. The Silver Pencil by Alice Dalgleish. Trying to get the glare out. Let me tell you what this is about. This is an honor book, as you can see with the silver. My nose itches, I'm sorry. One special Christmas, Janet Laidlaw's father gives her a silver pencil for her stories, and she begins to write about the lush island of Trinidad and her family's house on the hill. Then Mr. Laidlaw's tragic death forces Janet to leave the only country she has ever known. From one school in cool green England to another in America, Janet tries to find both a home and her life's work. Throughout it all, she uses her silver pencil to turn her life into stories. and her story brings to vivid life a world that has gone forever. Cool story. This one is also a Newberry Honor Book, and it is by Laura Ingalls Wilder, By the Shores of Silver Lake. Of course, this I did read as a young girl. I think I read the whole series, I'm not sure. Meet Laura Ingalls, the little girl who would grow up to write the Little House books. Pa Ingalls heads west to the unsettled wilderness of the Dakota Territory. When Ma, Mary, Laura, Carrie, and baby Grace join him, they become the first settlers in the town of De Smet, and Pa begins work on the first building in what will soon be a brand new town on the shores of Silver Lake. This is the 5th book in the Laura Years series. It says on the back here, America's original pioneer girl. Isn't that a cute cover? It's just nice. It just kind of goes with the setting of the story. The Good Master by Kate Soretti, a Newbery Honor Book. See if I get the glare out for you. It says, Janksy is overjoyed to hear that his cousin from Budapest is coming to spend the summer on his father's ranch on the Hungarian plains. But their summer proves more adventurous than he had hoped when headstrong Kate arrives, as together they share horseback races across the plains, country fairs and festivals, and a dangerous run-in with the gypsies. In vividly detailed scenes and beautiful illustrations, this Newbery Award-winning author presents an unforgettable world and characters who will be remembered forever. The Moor Child. Now there was about 4 books, but 4 books with the same title, but this one, I love this cover. This is a Newbery Honor Book written by Eloise McGraw. I love that cover. Look at that hair. Looks just like mine, when I let it down. Rage and grieve. That's all Muckle can do against her terrible fate. Her own kin have banished her from all she's ever known, her homeland, the folk, the Moors, and sent her to live with humans. The man with his fearful, threatening iron, the woman who smothers her with embraces. Mokul couldn't care less about them. All she wants is to go back home. But Mokul, called Saaski by the man and woman, will have to care, for though she isn't human, she isn't folk either. She's half of both, making her not quite one nor the other. And the folk have already rejected her once. Even if she could go back, they would surely do it again. Mokul Saaski must fit in with these people to survive, and this may be more difficult than she thinks, because humans don't just banish others who are different from them. They fear them, and a fearful human can be very dangerous. That looks like a great story. Love that cover. When You Reach Me by Rebecca Steed. Newbery Medal. By 6th grade, Miranda and her best friend Sal know how to navigate their New York City neighborhood. They know where it's safe to go and who to avoid, like the crazy guy on the corner. But things start to unravel. Sal gets punched by a kid on the street for what seems like no reason, and he shuts Miranda out of his life. The apartment key that Miranda's mom keeps hidden for emergencies is stolen, and then a mysterious note arrives, scrawled on a tiny slip of paper. I am coming to save your friend's life and my own. I ask 2 favors. First, you must write me a letter. The notes keep coming, and Miranda slowly realizes that whoever is leaving them knows things no one should know. Each message brings her closer to believing that only she can prevent a tragic death, until the final note makes her think she's too late. This remarkable novel takes place in the real world, but holds a fantastic puzzle at its heart. When You Reach Me is an original and a brilliant and profound delight. Cool story. Here's the other Roald Dahl book, The Witches. I like that cover too. So, next one is a Newbery Honor Book, Ringer. Not All Birthdays Are Welcome by Jerry Spinelli. I've seen this cover before. And the cover alone, you look at it and you think, I wonder what that's about. Let's see. The pigeon's eye is like a polished shirt button. The pigeon's eye is orange with a smaller black button in the center. It looks up at him. It does not blink. It seems as if the bird is about to speak, but it does not. Only the voices speak. Ring it, ring it, ring it. He cannot. He cannot ring it, nor can he let go. He wants to let go, desperately, but his fingers are stone, and the voices chant, ring it, and the orange eye stares. All right, it's got my attention. The Egypt Game by Zilpha Keatley Snyder. I think we just saw another one of her books. This is a Newberry Honor book. And it says, the first time Melanie Ross meets April Hall, she's not sure they have anything in common, but she soon discovers that they both love anything to do with ancient Egypt. When they stumble upon a deserted storage yard behind the AZ Antiques and Curio Shop, Melanie and April decide it's the perfect spot for the Egypt Game. Before long, there are 6 Egyptians instead of 2. After school and on weekends, they all meet to wear costumes, hold ceremonies, and work on their secret code. Everyone thinks it's just a game until strange things begin happening to the players. Has the Egypt Game gone too far? Oh, that's cool. This book I got simply because I remember it from my childhood, and I'm sure I read it, but I don't remember a thing. By Robert McCloskey, Homer Price. Some of you may remember this book too. Great book. This one is Sarah Plain and Tall by Patricia McLachlan. Blah, blah. Newberry Medal. Did Mama sing every day? Caleb asks his sister Anna. Every single day, she answers. Papa sang too. Their mother died the day after Caleb was born. Their house on the prairie is quiet now, and Papa doesn't sing anymore. Then Papa puts an ad in the paper asking for a wife, and he receives a letter from one Sarah Elizabeth Wheaton of Maine. Papa, Anna, and Caleb write back. Caleb asks if she sings. Sarah decides to come for a month. She writes Papa, I will come by train. I will wear a yellow bonnet. I am plain and tall. And tell them I sing. Anna and Caleb wait and wonder. Will Sarah be nice? Will she like them? Will she stay? And I also like this cover. It was a simple, when you look at the title, Sarah Plain and Tall. This is a very plain cover, but it kind of has that, early American on the frontier kind of feel to it. I liked it. Next one. The Bears on Hemlock Mountain by Alice Dalgleish. We also just saw another one of her books. This is a Newbery Honor book. Cool cover with the eyes and everything. This is There Are No Bears on Hemlock Mountain. No bears at all. Or so young Jonathan is told by the grown-ups as he sets out alone over Hemlock Mountain. But as Jonathan discovers on the cold winter night, grown-ups don't always know. And there are bears on Hemlock Mountain. Cool. Adventure story. I like it. It's very short. This is not a Newbery Medal winner, but guess what? It's by an author who I'm doing my capstone presentation on, Philip Pullman. Clockwork. Look at that cover. Oh, it's awesome. Could not resist. This says, an apprentice clockmaker faces failure. A writer with a story he can't control, a girl whose courage will need to match her kindness, a prince whose mechanical heart is winding down, a clockwork knight with murderous tendencies, and a doctor who just may be the devil. Their stories come together piece by piece in this chilling tale where nothing is as it seems, but like the gears of a strange and wonderful clock, everything fits together. Now, this won the 1997 Smarties Award. That's based in Britain. Okay, almost last one. Before We Were Free. This is not a Newbery Medal winner, but it is a Pura Belpré Award. It's by Julia Alvarez, and I know many of you are going to be familiar with that author. On the back it says, I wonder what it would be like to be free, not to need wings because you don't have to fly away from your country. From award-winning author Julia Alvarez comes the story of Anita de la Torre, a 12-year-old girl living in the Dominican Republic in 1960. Most of Anita's relatives have emigrated to the United States. Her tío Tony has disappeared. Papi has been getting mysterious phone calls about butterflies and someone named Mr. Smith. And the secret police have started terrorizing her family for their suspected opposition to the country's dictator. While Anita deals with a frightening series of events, she also struggles with her adolescence and her own personal flight to be free. This was an ALA Best Book for Young Adults, an ALA Notable Book, a Miami Herald Best Book of the Year, winner of the Americas Award for Children's and Young Adult Literature, and of course the winner of the Pura Belpré Award. This is a good story. You just know it's a great story. Last one, people. Yay! Invincible Louisa, the story of the author of Little Women by Cornelia Meggs. Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, the four famous March sisters in Little Women, were more than just storybook characters. The author, Louisa May Alcott, based that book on her own loving family, her parents and her sisters, Anna, Elizabeth, and May. Jo was the real-life Louisa, the invincible, unconquerable tomboy, whose stories brought her fame and the money her family so desperately needed. In this true story of Louisa May Alcott, you'll find out what really happened to Jo, Louisa, and her sisters, and whether there really was a Laurie. Now, because this is about Little Women, the author of Little Women, I've never read Little Women. So of course you know what that means. Before I can read this, I have to read Little Women because I have a feeling there's some spoilers in this book and I hate that. So I know what I have to do with this. And this is the last. This is the Newbery Medal, excuse me. And this is the last of my Newberries and a few of the non-Newberries. In total, let me see if I can get the stack and hold it up. These are all the books I got today at my library sale. Look at that. I'm going to count how many there are, but I paid for all these books $15. When you think we pay that for one book, when it's a great deal, you know. 1, 2, 30 books. So each one of those books was 50 cents. Not bad. And that is it, everyone. I just want to mention one thing before I finish. I have been moving my social media links to other ones in support of small businesses, in support of businesses who have stood by their principles, etc. So this week, with Goodreads, I've transferred my information on Goodreads to the Storygraph. I don't know if any of you are on the Storygraph, but if you're interested, Goodreads is owned by Amazon. So that's why I decided to move it over. So here's a recommendation. If you want to show your support in any way you can, perhaps you might want to consider switching from Goodreads to the Storygraph. The Storygraph is very good. I love the visuals and everything on it. It's a good program. So thanks for hanging out with me, everybody. Have a great weekend, and I will see you in a few days. Bye-bye.